This story chronicles my path to healing and reveals how I overcame an unrelenting feeling of hopelessness that stemmed from a past filled with neglect and abuse. This is my story. Last year, Mother's Day weekend, I drove from Irving to Jacksonville, Texas to visit my little brother. He was in hospice, and after years of running from himself, his body had simply given up. And I know the scent of burning both candles at both ends too well. As I watched him lying there, I became overwhelmed with the deepest, most profound feeling of sadness my heart had ever felt. And even though he said nothing, I felt that he knew I was there, that he had just been waiting for me to come and say goodbye. As I held his hand, I thought about how for 50 years I'd felt the guilt and shame of not only from my own victimization, from watching my little brother spiral out of control as he struggled with his own. For him, it was a lifetime of destructive behaviors, and I've struggled with not having done enough to be there for him, to let him know that it was not our fault, that there was nothing we did wrong, that our worth as humans is priceless, that our assault does not lessen our abilities or worth as men, that it does not define or break us, that we don't have to feel ashamed because there is honor in being a survivor. Our childhood was borrowed, I told him, not stolen, and that together we could rescue our inner child and become whole again. It took a long time for me to get to this point. It took years to get myself to a place where I could finally begin to heal, but also to overcome this crippling sense of helplessness that I felt from watching my brother struggle so much. And here I am, a college grad, published poet, actor, author, social worker, and him, a twice convicted felon, homeless, addicted, alone in a nursing home at 53. There are things no one will ever know about our past. I kissed his forehead as he stared straight ahead. Tears formed in the corner of his eyes, confirmation perhaps that he hurt me. And even though I will never forget the murder of innocence, and that there will never be a crack wider than the crease in between sheets behind those closed doors, it was at that moment that I began to realize that I no longer had to feel ashamed. For years, I'd expressed so much anger, rage, and guilt from not being able to have done something to address what happened to us. As an African-American man, the denial of Black victimhood was an invisible barrier to my healing. I realize that now. And as a result, I lived in isolation every day. That isolation affected me in all aspects of my life and caused me to feel so helpless because I wasn't able to protect him or me. I used to be so overwhelmed with emotion thinking about those days that I just wanted to disappear. But over time, I sought counseling, which helped me to cope with my past trauma. In addition to counseling, I found that expressive writing proved to be a powerful, freeing, and easily accessible remedy for me. And now I create miracles on pages with the ink of a pen bleeding from within, because this is one of the many ways survivors survive. This much needed rediscovery is teaching me to accept that support and that I can recover from my trauma, that I can break free from the cycle of silence that often leads to a toxic existence instead of a positive presence. Healing is absolutely possible for me now. I know that. And I give myself permission to connect to loving, affirmative, strong, sensitive, accepting men and women in my life and community. As I heal, I'm developing the ability to experience a wider range of emotions to help enhance my mental health and healthy connections to others. As I heal, I commit to reconnecting to the boy inside me today so that we can play, laugh, and experience joy together tomorrow. As I heal, I release and forgive myself for any responsibility I had taken on in the past for my abuse. You see, I've used all the resources I know to get myself back to a place of self-love and peace. I've used things like creative writing to pour my pain and grief into poems and commit myself to the practice of transparency because it allows me to breathe. This commitment has led to a clarity that has manifested itself into meaningful emotional directives. It feels so good to begin to know who I truly am. To understand that the importance of how to navigate perceived norms and masculinity, especially as an African-American man, can shape the way that I process and articulate my lived experiences of sexual assault. I'm a man who is no longer afraid to embrace his past and whose soul is now overflowing with what I know will eventually be a profound inner peace. I'm a survivor, and I'm learning to see beyond my own past trauma and realize that I'm going to be all right. You see, my story is just beginning. And I'm hopeful that one day these breadcrumbs of wisdom, hope, and self-reflection will eventually lead me to the best me I can be. My life is moving right along, and I like where it's going, to a place where I no longer have to wonder how to hold on to the healing, because I accept and acknowledge unconditionally my individuality and unique personality. There are layers to me I'm still uncovering. And as I peel back the pain from my past, as I unravel and sort through and rearrange my life, I am rediscovering so much raw happiness and genuine joy, and it feels good. I'm proud of me, y'all. And I know that my little brother is up there smiling and that he is proud of me too. My healing came via positive self-acceptance, and it's enabling me to channel my trauma into transformation. But most importantly, it gives me access to connect with other survivors who have been where I am. It is in validating communities like these that I've found the most healing. I pray, practice, and participate in places that provide positive platforms that nurture my peace and purpose. But mainly, I've been able to connect to professional groups like Men's Story Project and Men Healing, who provide me with a tremendously supportive platform to speak my truth. I am so honored to be part of an outpouring that features stories from some of the bravest men I've ever known. Our shared experiences have sharpened and strengthened each other. These connections continue to help me recognize, love, and respect myself and others in a way I never imagined. I'm a survivor who is a provider for other survivors. I will no longer try to convince myself that it was only a little thing, that it had no impact on my life, that I had to block out the memories because, I've always known what happened. Standing there beside my little brother, it helped motivate me to no longer be silenced by stigma and shame, that I'm a man healing, willing to confront the past so that I can walk forward into my future. It was Saturday, May 9th, 9:15 a.m., Mother's Day weekend, 2020, when I said goodbye to my little brother and hello to me. Thank you, y'all.